What do you expect people to learn listening to our conversation today?
Well, if I can just inspire one person to take the leap into entrepreneurship,
Today, we're joined by Sally Lawson, one of the UK's leading voices in the lettings industry. With over 30 years of experience, she's built multiple successful property businesses, trained thousands of agents, and helped redefine how modern letting agencies operate. She's a speaker, author, mentor, and a true authority in the UK property market.
When I was put in foster care at the age of 10, I was classified as feral. I used to cut my own hair, steal clothes, steal food. I could make a choice between milk and cornflakes, so I'd have cornflakes with water on. And I think moving forward now, and I've got 6 businesses now, multiple properties overseas and in the UK, and I think I can do that because...
What common mistakes do you see new agents make, and how can they avoid them?
I think if I was a new agent starting now, I think there's a few things I'd do. Number one.
Hello, welcome to Property Investment Blueprint podcast. In today's podcast, we have Sally Lawson. How are you, Sally?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you very much for having me today, Rahim.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for making the time for being here with us. Before we get going, Sally, what do you expect people to learn listening to our conversation today?
Well, if I can just inspire one person to take the leap into entrepreneurship, to really building a future for themselves and being that transitional character that really makes a difference in their lineage, then I think we've really achieved something. Because let's be honest, there's those that really can step up and make a difference, and there's those that don't. And I think it's all of our duty to do the best that we possibly can in our lives. And hopefully I can inspire someone to do just that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. Before we get started, what is your contact from your earliest years? I need to understand you.
Okay, I was actually put in foster care at the age of 10.
Oh.
And when I was put in foster care at the age of 10, I was classified as feral. And the first 10 years of my life, really, what that meant was feral meant that very little adult intervention. And so at the age of 10, my poor foster parents were faced with this crazy child that had never had a single rule in her life, but had also never been fed or clothed. So I used to cut my own hair, steal clothes, steal food. I used to follow the milkman and steal milk and bread. I used to love bread and bread and salt and vinegar sandwiches was my main staple. So you can imagine the state of me when they got hold of me, with my fringe going down at an angle and clothes that were 5 years too young for me, and I wouldn't listen to anybody about anything. To the point that I'd never actually brushed my teeth. I'd never had to wash. I'd literally one pair of pants to my name, and I'd never sat at a table for dinner. And I can remember one real pivotal moment. It stuck in my brain. It certainly stuck in my foster parents' memory, and that was the first time they gave me a dinner. And we sat at a table with a tablecloth. Now, I'd never seen such a thing. And they served me a lovely Sunday dinner, with roast potatoes and all that sort of stuff, and a chicken leg and mashed potato and vegetables and thick gravy. And the smell, it was just absolutely amazing. And there I was, this very weird looking 10-year-old. And I did what any self-respecting kid would do. I picked up the drumstick in my fingers, swirled it around the plate, got as much mashed potato, peas and gravy on this chicken leg as I possibly could, took a big bite, and it was the most heavenly thing I think I ever tasted in my life, because I'd never had such a thing. And looking across the table was these 2 foster parents just looking at me in horror as the gravy dripped down my chin, down my top, all up my arms, all over the table, absolutely everywhere. But I was absolutely in bliss. And I think that sort of sums up my first 10 years, really. And, those foster parents did an amazing job with me. They taught me how to wash. They taught me how to eat at the dinner table. They taught me how to brush my teeth. I can remember they actually had a little win on the lottery and won £100 on the, whatever it was, the pools, I think it was at the time, and got me some clothes. And, they've really sort of straightened me out. And I have a lot to thank them for that.
Wow, beautiful. I can relate to that. I was a foster child myself, but I wasn't as young as you. I was only 15 years old when I went to foster home.
It's tough.
I would imagine that love you felt being in that home is secure. It looks amazing compared to where you were. But what made you go to foster family?
Yeah, my mother was, oh, I don't even know what you described for her as really. She was mixed up, I think, is probably the answer. We used to move every 6 weeks all around the country. We'd move to different houses, to different houses. She had an alcohol problem. She had
Mm.
dosed upon medication. She was generally not present mentally in most cases and physically a lot of the time. And so as a result of that, she, in the end, she just killed herself. She jumped in the canal and committed suicide. So that was, and I actually was standing at the bus stop watching them pull her out when it all happened. So it was an interesting first few years, but that led to me going into foster care and with
Wow.
Pat and Keith and them having the
Wow.
journey.
Very sorry to hear that. I'm very, very sorry to hear that. But you must have gone through a lot. By the way, my sympathy as well for doing for going through that. I guess you grew up a lot quicker, perhaps maybe even smarter or even clever than any 10-year-old at your age because you were going through a lot during that time, I would assume. So how were you able to manage that before you actually end up being in a foster home?
Well, it's interesting perspective because I have a different perspective to a lot of people, and I actually really enjoyed my childhood, and it was
Uh,
to me, great. It was an adventure somewhere new. Every 6 weeks, we were jumping on trains, and in my childlike mind, we were going somewhere exciting. It was like the Harry Potter train, we'd go here, we'd go there. I was free. All the other kids had to go in at 6 o'clock and go to bed. I didn't. I could sleep in the woods all night. I could go up the rubbish dump and get myself a new pair of shoes. I had loads of animals for friends in the woods and things like that. I'd climb trees, I'd swim in rivers. I'd eat what I wanted when I wanted that I could rob, nick, steal, borrow. I'd learned how to go to people's houses when they were cooking dinner and their parents would feed me because they felt sorry for me.
mm,
And I was absolutely very worldly wise by the time I was 10.
mm,
My mind, as I saw it at the time, and I see it differently now as an adult, but my worst years were actually the 10 to 16 when I was in foster care. When I
mm,
had all these rules and I had to do this and had to do that, and I absolutely fought it. But it did lead me to what created the person I am today. And that was
mm,
in order to get away from these rules and this, you've got to do this and got to do that, which I absolutely hated.
mm,
I found work. And at the age of 13, I got a job in a restaurant. And I was a washer-upper, at £1.95 an hour I was on, and used
wow.
to get tips at Christmas and Easter and all that sort of thing and whatever. But I all of a sudden I was earning quite decent money. So I was earning about 30 something pound a week.
Mm,
And that was good money for a school kid. I could all of a sudden I could buy my own clothes and I could do what I wanted to do. I was a member of a youth club when we used to go away and go to Spain and things like that. And I could really start to take command of my own life. And my foster parents couldn't argue with me because I was working and I was
mm,
working evenings and working weekends. And so for me, money gave me control
mm,
control of my own life. It gave me freedom. And I think I still carry that with me today. When you do those tests and you do the 7 levels of why as to why you
yeah.
do what you do,
Mm,
mine is control. And
wow.
to have that control. And they do say this about foster kids. And I don't know if you have the same thing, Rahim, but they say about a lot of foster kids and kids that are adopted and that sort of thing is that as a child, if you have so little control of your life because of poor parental influence in whatever way, shape, or form that comes from, those sort of kids tend to really fight for control. And
Mm,
it absolutely is true for me. It is about control, and control gives you choice, gives you freedom, and allows you to serve and to give back. So to me, that's what it means.
wow. I love that. Very inspiring, for you to go through that process and looking at where you are now. It must be a journey, which we're going to dive into a lot more. Um, have you ever thought about when you're going through that, when your mom sadly passed away, have you thought about, oh, maybe I can go and hang around with my dad, or maybe, I can go to my dad's. Have that thought come across you?
No, and apparently when I was 5, I'd never met my dad. I didn't know who he was. And
Okay.
when I was 5, there was a court case, and apparently my father, I was made ward of court, which means I was forbidden under law from seeing him till I was 16.
Wow.
So I actually was not allowed. And I still to this day, and I met my dad at 16. Do you know, he was the most loveliest guy. And we built a relationship after the 16. He died, unfortunately, when I was 30, but we spent a good 14 years getting to know each other, and he was absolutely lovely. So what happened there, I don't know. I was 5. I have no idea what happened. I would like to find out. But I don't understand how in the 70s, 1970, no, 1982, this would have been actually, in 1982, they decided it was better to put me in foster care than
Hmm.
it was to go to my father. Or at the
Right.
age of 5, why my mother won that court case, knowing what she was like,
Hmm.
rather than my father. I don't know. And yes, absolutely, with hindsight and adult mindset and common sense, it would have been so much better for me to have gone there.
Hmm.
But for powers beyond my control or understanding at the time, it was not to be.
Wow. So beautiful answer there. I love that. Obviously, spending that time with him as well, getting to know him would be an absolute amazing because you may have just heard perceptions of what people said about him, but you spending 14 years with him, getting to know him, it is amazing. Again, sorry for your loss there. So moving to foster home, I know it's a different environment because I've gone through it, right? I know the transition. So how are you able to kind of transition from the girl living in the street to being in a foster home where everything's kind of controlled?
I hated every second of it. I mean, I fought it. I literally screamed and shouted and kicked. I jumped out of the window, climbed down the drain pipe. I hid for days. I fought it from the moment I was there till the moment I left. I absolutely fought it. And I think it's horrible. I mean, I've maintained a relationship with my foster parents ever since. They are lovely people, but I don't know. It was a process. I don't want to call
Hmm.
anybody else mom. You're not my mother. You're not my father. I don't want to be here. Why am I here? Take me away. I hate it here. I hate the rules. I hate everything about it. I was the black sheep because to me, I didn't fit. This wasn't my life.
Hmm.
And when I look back at it, it was so ungrateful. But I'm just being honest. As a child, the
Hmm.
angst, the turmoil, the whatever was coming out in the complete refusal to accept that
Hmm.
this was now my life. And I just fought it. I absolutely fought it. A few years later, I got back in touch with my foster parents, and we've maintained a lovely relationship ever since. Once the adult kicked in, and I could see what amazing work they did for me, and they did, and I'm forever grateful to them because I wouldn't be here now without them. But at the time, teenage angst, hormones, everything else that was going on in my brain,
Hmm.
not deal with it too well at all. So the answer is, how did I deal with it? I probably didn't. I just fought it, and I just started working, making money, and realized that maybe that was the answer.
I like that. I like the way you've answered that question. It's a beautiful way of looking at it and seeing the good things that you've actually achieved from it, looking back as an adult. So obviously there may be lack of money in the household, hence the reason why you wanted to be independent by working, earning your own money. So what was lack of money in your household shape about your view about money today?
Um, I think, well, obviously, my foster father was a dustman, and my foster mother was a factory worker. So they had their own house, they owned their own house, they had, a nice life.
Hmm.
But it wasn't mine. And work gave me a reason to get out of the house, and it gave me choice in what I did with my life and where I went, etc., etc. So it gave me that control. And I think moving forward now, and I've got 6 businesses now, multiple properties overseas and in the UK. Um, and I coach literally thousands of people to grow and scale their business. And I think I can do that because I've gone everywhere. I've been everywhere, right from having absolutely nothing
Hmm.
to having something. Throughout that journey, there's 1,001 stories, experiences, and lifetime examples that help me to understand where other people are coming from. If you've got a job and you've never started a business, it's a terrifying leap to
Hmm.
say, let's give up the day job and the salary and start a business. Now, I can remember when I did that. It's terrifying. How do you pay the
Hmm.
petrol? In those days, how do you buy the stamps? How do you pay the rent? How do you survive? How do you feed yourself? It's terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. Then fast forward, let's say you've got 20 staff, you've got a big business, and COVID hits. How do you pay the wages? How do you keep the wolf from the door? How do you all these things, that they
Hmm.
enrich us as humans, don't they? We become more experienced, we become more worldly wise, and we're more able to cope with more challenges that come at us. And I think that's the benefit of being in business a long time and just being alive a long time. I think life teaches you to be stronger, to be harder, to cope with more. But more importantly, it teaches you that you have the ability to deal with those things. And that's the journey us as entrepreneurs have to go. And when you first start, you get terrified because someone gives you a bad review. 10 years down the line, it's like, yeah, bad review. But you get a litigation come through. Oh, someone's suing me. All right. 30 years down the line, someone's suing me. Ah, passe, whatever. COVID. Okay, this is new. Never had a pandemic. Now, what happens now? So I think, as you go through life, the problems, that life doesn't get easier. Having multiple businesses, earning decent money, multiple properties, it doesn't make life easier. The problems get bigger, the challenges get harder.
You get a different challenge, aren't you?
But you're just more able to cope with them. So I think that's the journey that we go on. And I think people that think, being in business and being an entrepreneur means it's all easy and just have loads of money and that, it is it's cuckoo land. It is
absolutely
tough, but you know what? It feels amazing. So
it is.
That's the challenge.
I wanted to walk you back a little bit here, in terms of you being an employee. How were you able to transition from working for some company or for someone else to actually start in your own business at 18 years of age?
Okay, so when I was on my 18th birthday, I signed the papers to my first flat that I bought. And so I had a mortgage. Now, this was the time interest rates were 15%. So my flat was £27,000 I paid for this flat, and the mortgage was about £500 a month. It's just insane. It was ridiculous.
It is 15%, and we're complaining about 4%.
But as I was buying it, it was going up, and I was like, oh! By the time I completed on it, it was just insane. So it was to the point where I can remember living in this flat. It was in Dudley. I was living in this flat, tiny little flat. It's more of like a studio flat, bedsit type thing. It was a flat, self-contained flat, but it was tiny. And I had to make a choice between paying the mortgage and literally putting food on the table. So I didn't have a fridge because I couldn't afford a fridge, didn't have a bed, so I had a mattress on the floor. I could make a choice between milk and cornflakes. So I'd have cornflakes with water on. I mean, that's how tough it was because that interest rate was absolutely excruciating. And so I got a job doing sales over in Brierley Hill, which was a residential one where they used to feed us and look after us during the week, but we had to fend for ourselves at weekends. So that was good. So food was taken care of for the week. But unfortunately, they never really paid us any commission. They just didn't pay us. And so I left and they promised me more commission and they still didn't pay that. So that was pointless anyway. So anyway, a bit of a dodgy company. But it's not like working for a dodgy company to give you motivation, to take control and work for yourself. And by this point, I'd met David, that would become my future husband. And so I agreed to go and live with him. So I didn't have rent to pay or mortgage to pay.
Save a bit of money.
They saved a bit of money. I got a job in a curtain shop part-time. So I used to go and sell curtains at a local curtain shop a couple of days a week. And the rest of the time, a couple of ads in the paper. Got my mother-in-law to be as was to answer the phone in between sewing the dresses that she used to make. And I'd answer the phone when I was around and did the appointments. And that's literally how we launched it. It was a couple of ads in the classified newspaper, me working part-time, and my mother-in-law answering the phone when I was at the curtain shop or doing something else. And that's how we got it off the ground.
Wow. So it was a cutting business, right? So how were you able to transition then from that sort of business to letting an estate agency?
No, the first business was a letting agency.
Lettings agency.
Yeah, the first business I set up in when I was 18 was actually a lettings business. And of course, lettings was very different then to what it is now. And of course, it wasn't a digital world. It was a very manual world. But yeah, it was a lettings business we started. And I can remember when I first started, the thing is, when you're 18, you do think you know everything when you're 18. You really do. I don't know if it's just confidence of youth or blind ignorance. I have no idea. But anyway, I can remember starting this letting agency and thinking, yeah, this is easy. I've worked in a letting agency for a few months. I know what it's all about. This is easy. I can do this. You don't need a tenancy agreement and some to let boards. That's it, isn't it? Anyway, started this letting agency very quickly. Realised there was quite a lot I didn't know. And I can remember going and applying to join ARLA, which is like the voluntary regulatory body for our industry. And I went to the interview. It must have been around 1993. So it must have been I was about 3 years in at this point, because 1990 when we started. And I can remember going to the interview and they're like, tell me about the Finance Act, tell me about the Cost of Leases Act, tell me about the Law of Property Act, tell me about this. And I was thinking, I have no idea what you're talking about. I have literally no idea what you've just said to me. I'm like, ah.
Yeah.
And they said, anyway, they accepted me on the basis that I attended every single legal training course that they were running. And of course, this point thought, yeah, hell, well, I need to because I really have no idea what you're talking about. And that really started my journey of learning because I love legislation, I love law, I love compliance. I use this in everything that I do. And actually going through that process of learning all the legislation was and I became able to rabbit it off and started to learn it, and it was just like this is amazing. So as I say, I started it just through, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs do this, and I think there's so many people think that you have to know everything to run a business. If you do that, you never start.
Yeah.
So you've just got to get going and figure it out. And there's some businesses, like if you're going to start doing, facelifts or whatever, you probably need to know what you're doing. But most businesses, you can, get it off the ground with very little knowledge and then, learn and scale a lot as you go along. So that's basically what I did. And
Wow.
we had to learn a lot as we went along, and it became our thing. Knowledge became our thing. The legislation, the compliance, the law, it became my thing, and it always has been. And to this day, it's still our thing. We will not be beat when it comes to legislation and compliance. We know it inside out. So we're very proud of that.
Well done. Well done for doing that. I'm telling you now. I know the letting and estate agency business, lots of legislations, and it keeps changing all the time as well. You've got to be
170
updated
pieces
yourself.
of legislation, apparently.
No, you got to update it all the time. So it is mind blowing. So
Mm.
during that process of setting up this business, going through all this, looking back, what would you say was your biggest hurdle that you faced, and how did you overcome it?
The biggest hurdle. Um, what would be the biggest hurdle? I think the biggest hurdle is the imposter syndrome, I think. And I
Hmm.
think this applies to a lot of people in a lot of places. When you first start, you have that confidence of, yeah, I know what I'm doing, and you quickly learn that you don't. And then all of a sudden, imposter kicks in, and it's like, what am I even thinking that I could run this business? There's all these people that are so much more knowledgeable than me. Why do I even think this is? And I can remember going, when I was 18 years old, and I was going to these appointments, and I was meeting, in the 80s, the world was a bit different. So we were meeting these big, serious, pinstripe suited tie and shiny shoes, driving the big posh car businessmen. And I was advising them on what to do and where to. And it was very clear that I had very little, what's the word? Power in the meeting. It was just like, well, they talk to me like they say things like, well, if you were in your own business, you might understand, but, how could you possibly understand what I'm saying, as at your age? I very quickly became apparent that my age was a problem. And I must admit, for the first few years, I never told anybody it was my business. It was just like, well, I'll have a chat and I'll just see what the boss says and stuff. And I had to, because they just wouldn't take me serious until I managed to. The legislation turned that around for me. A couple of years later, when I learned all that legislation, I could go and say, you do realise under subsection 2.4 of the Housing Act 1986 that you must make sure blah, 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 blah. The Consumer Protection Act 1987 states that. You know, so under section 13, section 19 of the Act.
What? They were like,
And they were
what
just
is
like,
going on?
and all of a sudden I got respect. So I think imposter syndrome is one of the most difficult things. And, we have to find a way to get our confidence. And for me, legislation gave me that confidence to be able to basically put anybody else back in the box, really that was challenging me, because I did know the stuff. I didn't at the beginning, but when I did, I was able to say, well, actually, I do know what I'm talking about, and you are wrong, and back it up with legislation.
Wow, I love that. And I can relate to that when I started myself looking into properties, because I started with a strategy called rent to rent, when it's the process by which you rent a property from a landlord and subsequently rent it out. So when I approach these landlords, most of the landlords are kind of elderly people. When I approach them, they look at me, you're way young. I can't give you my property. Why should I give you my property? You can't even take care of yourself. How can you take care of my property? So I had that obstacle for many, 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 many months. But what I decided to do is to use my title, because I was working as an accountant then. So what I used to do then, as soon as I approach the landlords, I say my title first. right? My name is Rahim. I'm a chartered accountant, right? I make that up. I was an accountant. I wasn't a chartered accountant quite. I had about 4 papers left. But in my head, I'm a chartered accountant. So as soon as I said I'm a chartered accountant, they kind of listen to what I'm saying then, right? But if I don't say that, they don't listen to whatever I say. They just literally turn a blind eye on me. So I had to learn that the hard way. So I can really understand how what you went through. It is painful. I will tell you that now. So looking at your business now, your business portfolio that you've built over the years, what key strategies have you found most effective in scaling a letting agency?
Well, this is what we coach. We coach agents all across the country to scale, and there's many ways to do it. I mean, any business that you look at, doesn't matter what sort of business you look at. Number one has got to be how many leads you get through the door.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't get any leads, you're not going to scale. You need more leads. The second one is about what you charge. So you can
Mm-hmm.
scale a business by just charging more or additional charging points or cutting out the stuff you're doing for free. Another one is additional services. So
Mm-hmm.
looking at how you can add additional services rather than just doing what you've always done, add additional services to that. And the fourth one, because you asked which is the fastest, is probably the fourth one, and that is
Mm-hmm.
how to acquire other agencies. So one of the reasons we stopped franchising, because I launched a franchise a few years ago, and we stopped franchising in 2017, was because I felt people would be better off acquiring a business rather than doing a cold start with a franchise. And so we teach agents how to basically buy other businesses without using any cash, borrowing any money, etc.
Wow, interesting.
And if you think about it, if you do 3 of those a year, 50 properties at a time, 100 properties at a time, you've got a very large business in 3, 4, 5 years. So
Mm-hmm.
that for me was the thing that really made the difference in scaling a business. And I've done about 17 acquisitions now. I'm
Wow.
not doing that now in the letting agency space. I'm focusing on the training and the coaching side, which is what I enjoy most currently. But we have literally helped hundreds of agents buy other agents and scale. So in answer to your question, the fastest one has got to be to acquire another business. If you think about it,
Wow.
you can do it very quickly.
Acquisition, basically.
Mm.
So if I was to see an estate agency or maybe a letting agency that is in the market and they are looking to sell, or maybe a private seller has approached me, what are the key metric? What are the maybe 4 key metric you want me to know as an overview before I even start looking at that business?
Is this to buy it or to sell it? What you talking about?
Buying.
To buy it. Um, well, you're a property investor. You know what I'm talking about here when I say you want a property that smells of wee. That's what we say in the Midlands.
Yeah.
It's probably a bit different down south, but you want something that you can a doer-upper. And so if you're looking for a business to buy in the sort of way that I'm talking, you're not going to buy my business. You're not going to buy Savills. You're not going to buy a big multi-branch business turning over millions. If you're going to buy a business without using your own cash and not putting money up front or taking out a loan, you're probably going to be talking about the small ones that are struggling. They're probably not making any money and they're putting money back into the business. That's what you want to buy because you really just want the assets. You don't want the business, you just want the assets. And if you think about it from my perspective, I could add 50 properties under management to my business and we wouldn't even notice a difference. So to me, there is zero cost that comes with that asset. So if we would take 50 properties, put it into my portfolio, that's roughly 50,000 a year revenue, and we wouldn't have a single additional cost for doing that.
Yeah.
So you're looking for something that somebody wants to get away from, something that needs work, something that needs improving.
Wow. I love that answer. So for the audiences that are actually watching or listening now, and they've got this business, they've gone through all these metrics, they kind of, yes, there's something that I can do here. There's a gap that I can feel. Maybe they are lacking leads, or maybe they're lacking customer services, because in the letting industry, we do lack that sort of service. Suppose then they've got that, they know they've got a gap there, and they can buy that business, and it is a very good business. But they're like, "Ooh, if I buy the business, how about if the landlords decide to leave the business?" So how can they overcome obstacle like that?
Well, of course, that's always a risk. The key is to be awesome. If you're going to, I mean, we took over a portfolio in Newcastle, 47 properties under management, about 40 of them were in arrears. The letting agent was charging 2 and 3% management fee, but that meant nothing because the landlords weren't receiving any money because they were in arrears.
Mhm.
I saw an opportunity. We basically acquired that portfolio for pretty much nothing.
Mhm.
Um, I know we're very good at chasing in arrears, and we're very good at handling housing benefit tenancies. We're very good at polishing up portfolios.
Mhm.
So I took over this portfolio, passed it to my back end team. I'm not responsible for this bit. Passed it over to my team. Cut a long story short, they got over 40 of them in payment, paying the
Wow.
rent. And there was one landlord paying 2%. We had to let him go because it's just there's no money in that.
Of course.
And as a result of that, we went back to the landlords and said, right, we're going to charge you 12.5% margin now, if that's okay. And they were
Mhm.
pleased to pay it. Why? Because we'd done a great job. We'd got their
Mhm.
tenancies in payment. We turned the portfolio around. And from our perspective, we took it from a non-income producing portfolio to generating 3,000 a month in fees for us.
Wow.
And that was
Beautiful.
just through sticking my team on it for a few weeks and getting through that arrears
Beautiful.
situation because the
Beautiful.
current agent just didn't know how to deal with it. They were hiding from the phone scenario,
Mhm.
whereas we'll straight in there. Right, we're going to deal with this. We need to get you in payment. We'll find a solution. Whereas a lot of people don't know how to deal with that. So I think you've got to follow your strengths. What is it
Mhm.
you are good at?
Yeah.
We are very good at the back end, legally, compliance, rent arrears. We're very good at mess, housing, HMOs, housing benefit, any of those things. We're really good at sorting out. So that's what I would focus on. But if you're not very good at sorting out and you're better at letting properties or doing pretty brochures and making them look good, then you're going to look for something different to me. Whereas if you want a
Mm.
pretty brochure, I am not your gal. That we don't really do pretty brochures. We're in Wolverhampton. It's difficult to do a pretty brochure on a terraced house in the middle of Parkfields. Um,
Mhm.
but we're very good at sorting stuff out. So you just got to pick your poison, really, choose what you're good at and aim for that portfolio. I think that's the goal.
I love that answer. As you're talking about that, I'm thinking about one of the best coaches I see out there, Tony Robbins. What he always says is that you got to add value in advance. So I think what you've done there, if you look back, I think you may have added significant value to both the tenant
Mhm.
and the landlords. And then you end up having all of them because I have an estate agency. We do have a estate agency here in Cardiff. Most of them get acquired, but in like 2, 3 months, all the tenants are gone. But
Mm.
obviously, what they were doing, they were not looking at the problem and trying to resolve it. They just tried to carry on with it, hoping and praying that things will be okay. So you adding that value is why you kept those 40 tenants. Basically, you looked at it as an umbrella view. You've got your team to kind of look at it, and then obviously, eventually, you're able to keep all the tenants. Then also increase the management fees to 12%.
Yeah.
That is amazing,
Well, if you're
amazing.
doing a job right, the landlord should be thanking you. They should be, and you should thank you. And if you think about those tenants, they would have been evicted, but we
Yeah.
didn't have to evict them because we've got them in payment. So,
Mhm.
as you say, it's a win-win all round, and I think that is the key.
Absolutely. So Agent Rainmaker has helped agent make significant revenue. What common mistakes do you see new agent make, and how can they avoid them?
New agents specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah, new agents. I think I probably left it a little bit too long getting into legislation. I think if I was a new agent starting now, I think there's a few things I'd do. Number one, I'd learn the law and I'd be able to rabbit it off immediately. Dear Mr. Land of the Consumer Protection Act 1987 states that Section 39 and 19 of the Act states that you must make sure the property is compliant, not fall foul of any compliance issues to cause injury, damage, or death to human, animal, or property. And it is a defence in court to show that you've taken all reasonable steps to avoid committing that offence. And if you fail to do so, it could be defensible in court. So you need to be able to just
That was amazing. Look at you reciting the legislation. Literally, you got
you
it off
need
head.
to be able to just go for it. So I think that's number one. I think in this game now in lettings, it's highly regulated,
Mhm.
highly legislation driven. You can't coast anymore. 20 years ago, yeah, the ASTs, whatever. No, you really have to know your stuff. That's number one. Number two, most businesses, doesn't care what businesses you're in, they don't have a lead generation mechanism. The average letting agents in the UK, even with a brand and a big fancy name and a big fancy office and fancy
Mhm.
cars, generate 3 to 4 leads per month per branch.
What?
So if you're going to do that, you need a lead generation mechanism. And that lead generation mechanism in this modern world is using these things because that
Mm-hmm.
is where everybody is looking.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to make sure that we are doing some form of digital marketing. I talk about funnels. I've been over in the US for the last 7 years, learning, mixing and hanging around with funnel builders, Russell Brunson to name in particular. And I am obsessed with funnels. And what I
Mm-hmm.
love about funnels, you can build them, switch them on, and just like that, you've got 100 leads in a week or a month, depending on what the funnel is. Um, which is phenomenal when you think of 3 to 4 versus 100, 200, 300. My branch in Wolverhampton, for example, generates 300 to 400 leads every single month of landlords.
Wow,
And
that's
of
good.
course, you can do some damage with that. So
Mm-hmm.
that's number two, have a
Mm-hmm.
lead generation system. If I was starting out, that's what I would do. And number three, I think I would really focus on having lots of additional services. I think a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
mistakes letting agents make now is they just do lettings and management.
Yeah,
Eight-
loads.
82% of the 82% of the landlords out there do not use letting agents for managed services.
Mm-hmm.
82%.
True.
Now, those 82% do want things from you, but you
Mm-hmm.
don't offer them. So it is important that letting agents offer additional services for landlords that want to buy, for landlords that want to sell,
Mm-hmm.
for landlords that have got inheritance tax issues, people that want to restructure their portfolios, a lot of landlords whose mortgages are expiring, probate issues. We need to be offering a full rounded level range of services for landlords as opposed to just lettings and management. So I think the biggest mistakes they do is they look around at all the other letting agents are doing and copy them. Most letting agents have 3 to 4 leads a month. Most letting agents only offer 2 services. Most letting agents, the average profit margin in the UK for the top 1,000 letting agents in the UK is 11.9%. It's
Wow.
not enough. And that's the top. So I don't need to tell you what the average profit margin is at the bottom 1,000.
Wow.
So it is important that you don't copy what everyone else is doing. You come to the market with your own unique offer, with something special. You understand the market that you're walking into, and you basically build something different that suits your character and your personality. So understand the legislation, build some funnels, do some digital marketing, and offer additional services. And I think if you do that, you're way ahead of the average letting agency business.
I love that answer. As you're actually giving me these 4 or 5 things to look at when you run an estate agency, um, I just thought about and letting agents. Actually, I'm going to refer them to you. That came to me and said, "Look, Rahim, I'm really struggling right now. Getting a new client or a tenant, a landlord is like asking someone to divorce their husband to come back to you. So that's how it is, how hard it is to get a landlord to move from one letting agency to your letting agency. He was thinking like, literally, what can I do to resolve that issue? So I'm going to ask you the same question actually. So what would you do to convince someone to move from an existing letting agencies to yours?
Well, I wouldn't do it like that personally. You have to build the system. I'm all about systems and processes. One-on-one conversation, hi Rahim, come and use my agent instead of yours is a very difficult conversation. And,
Mhm.
not one I have the answer to, but this is how we do it.
Mhm.
Um, you have to have a system out there that's going to make people, number one, identify who you are. Number two, know, like, and trust you. Number three, think, oh my God, you're amazing. And number four, why am I dealing with this idiot over here when I should be dealing with you? And then get them to transfer over. The way we do that is we run educational webinars. So every 12
Right.
weeks, we run an educational webinar.
Mm.
That's offers
Okay.
free education for 2 hours to landlords. We tell them
Mhm.
things that they've never heard of, don't know about, their agent's not told them. And it's one of the best mechanisms I know for getting landlords to move from one agent to another,
Nice.
from managing themselves to
Mhm.
coming to use you. We've just done a portfolio takeover of 32 properties.
Mhm.
The reason we did that is because they attended 5 of our webinars. And every single time they came to one of our webinars, they found out a piece of compliance they were not adhering to. Every time they came to a webinar, they realized they got fines and prosecutions they were pending because they hadn't done this, hadn't done that, hadn't done the other. And in the
Wow.
end, they realized it was far cheaper to pay us to do it for them than it was to actually pay the fines they were facing because they weren't doing it properly.
Absolutely. I love that answer.
Mm.
For someone starting their own estate agency or letting agency today, I know you may have answered this question already, but what is the first step they should take before they even start thinking going into the state agency business?
Learn the legislation. I think you there's no point looking around and seeing what everyone else does because that model is broken. Um, you need to be number one, learn legislation. I would then learn marketing. I can see behind you, you've got the book there, Sabri Subi, Sell Like Crazy.
Mm.
I can see you've got Tony Robbins, Money Mastery. You may well have in there some Alex Hormozy somewhere.
Yeah, I do.
You know, that's what you need to be reading. You need to be consuming Sabri Subi, Russell Brunson, Alex Hormozy. You need to be consuming that stuff.
Hmm.
Because so many people go into business and do not understand marketing. Well, I don't care whether you're selling cupcakes, hairdressers, digital marketing, podcast, whatever it is you're doing, you have to be able to market yourself and promote yourself. It's every single penny you spend learning marketing is worth 100x, if not more. And the best thing I ever did was get myself over to Boise, Idaho, and join Russell Brunson's 2CCX, then his Inner Circle program,
Hmm.
and learn how to build funnels, marketing funnels, digital marketing, etc. It's changed my life and
Hmm.
my business's trajectory. And I never think, oh, there isn't enough leads coming through. There's just I haven't done enough marketing. If I need some more leads, I just turn on a funnel. In fact, if I need to recruit a new member of staff, I just turn on a funnel. I use funnels for everything. I actually reckon if you wanted a husband or wife, and in fact, I've actually seen one,
I like
you could
that.
actually build a funnel. I actually saw it on a billboard somewhere. It says getmeawife.com, and it was actually a funnel. Guy looking for a wife. So, I mean, you could literally market or promote anything, but if you don't know how to market, you're going to sit there and, you think the phone's going to ring, but I promise you'll sit there and the phone won't ring and you'll go, how do I get landlords in? And then you'll start trying to see what everyone else is doing. And they're doing leaflets or they're advertising the roundabout or they're doing like meaningless social media posts. That ain't working. That's not going to get you leads. You've got to do something that's going to get leads into your calendar, into your inbox. And that's only down to learning marketing. So just learn marketing, learn legislation, learn marketing, be creative, come up with something different, and
Mhm.
hit the market. Go for it.
I love that. Reflecting on your journey, what are your most proudest achievement so far?
Well, I'm quite proud of the fact I've owned my letting agency for 35 years. I still own it today. That's quite something. Not many businesses stand that test of time. I was very proud to and honoured to be asked to be president of ALA, which was the organisation that trained
Oh,
me back in
nice.
the early 20s.
Congratulations.
I had a 3-year presidential run and was ALA president between 2017 2018 and toured the whole of the UK, speaking to letting agents from Belfast, Scotland, South Coast, London, Central London, etc. That was pretty amazing. I think my current real thing that I'm proud of is the difference that we're making to so many thousands of people.
Hmm.
We've helped literally thousands of agents through our one-day coaching boot camps, the 2-day conference we do. Literally thousands of people every year come through our programs. And those that we've worked very closely with on our ARX Mastermind, of which is about 350 people, have now added over 6 figures to their business. So they've added over
Wow.
£100,000 to their letting agency businesses. Some of them have only got 25 properties under management and just started out. Some of them are £3 million businesses. We have everything from point A to point B. But in total, we've helped them add over £78 million in additional revenue. Now
Beautiful.
that's a number, that's a figure, that's maths. But behind that, what that's done, it's gave people freedom and control. Because
Hmm.
we've seen so many people that are trapped by their businesses, you know, panicking, how are we going to pay the VAT, how are we going to pay the payroll, how are we going to pay the
Hmm.
tax, how are we going to
Hmm.
make ends meet. People that can't take a holiday without having a mobile phone clupped to their ears, people that never see their kids because they're working all the hours that God send, people that are still doing the role of a junior member of staff, earning two, three, £4 an hour when they've got staff earning more than them, or they just can't afford to hire staff at all. And we've basically got these people out of this place and given them control of their business and given them the freedom they want and taught them how to be business owners, as well as helping them add additional revenue. And that gives people control. And that to me is the biggest pride moment because I know there's a ripple effect to that. If we've affected that person's life, that will have affected their family's life and their
Hmm.
children's life. It will have
Yeah.
affected their team's life.
Hmm.
They will go on and build awesome businesses, maybe even more than one business, and have that skill set for life. And I sometimes sit there and think, yeah, I did that. That's good. I like that.
Wow.
As a
Wow.
result of that, we enable a lot of people to do a lot of charity work. A lot of people we've helped to do that have gone on to build schools in Africa, to do crazy cycle rides for charity and raise thousands of pounds. And we, as our Agent Rainmaker community, have helped agents. So we have raised over £250,000 for Promised Dreams, which is a
Wow.
small charity giving dreams to terminally ill children. We've also built a school in Africa as well. So there's lots of things that are to be proud of, but you know what? They sometimes making money in this country is a dirty word. But you know what? When you make money, you can actually do a lot of good. And I think if you
Absolutely.
can tie up making money with doing a lot of good, that's where the real pride comes from. So for me, that's the pride. That's the proud moment, and that's the ripple effect. And we don't even know how far that's gone, but it's changed a lot of lives.
I love that. I love that answer. It's absolutely amazing. So, how do you envision the future of estate and letting agency industry, and what role do you hope to play in it?
Do you know what? When I was 18, I sat down and worked out our mission statement. God knows why I was doing that at 18, but anyway, I did. And I've still got it somewhere. And it says to become and remain the best letting agency in the UK. Okay, well, we haven't done that. But the next bit, it says to change the face of letting agency
Wow.
world forever. That was the second half of that mission. And I think we're on a way to doing that. We are really changing the industry, one agency at a time. Obviously, we do one-to-many events, but we are changing the industry. And I
I love
think
that.
my hanging my boots up to retire whenever that might happen, probably when I die, because I can't see me retiring before then, because I just love what I do. But when I finish, I want to be able to look back and to say, yeah, we made a difference. And I think that's what it is. And I think I actually put not Google, sorry, ChatGPT the other day. What does the world look like in 25 years' time? I don't know if you've never done that, please do it.
Um,
It's fascinating.
is it?
Most of our jobs will be replaced by AI, by robots. We're not going to travel anymore. We'll be using VR headsets. It's
That is
just
scary.
terrifying. So you tell me in 25 years, I have no idea. Me and you will probably be holograms. I actually think we will communicate via avatars, because one of the things is said in ChatGPT, and I've also seen it in a book I read as well, that because of genetic engineering and stem cells and whatever, they reckon we're all going to live to 120.
Wow.
And apparently the two big industries to invest in are medical science and plastic surgery. Can you imagine what we're going to look like when we're 120? So yeah, I think me and you'll be talking through holograms, through avatars, and I think our
That
work
would be
will be
crazy.
conducted like that. So what letting agency is going to look like, I have absolutely no idea.
But I'm pretty sure we'll still be in existence. I'll tell you that now, because everybody
Different to
will need a
now,
home to
anyway.
live in, right? So, what legacy do you hope to leave for the next generation of entrepreneurs in the property industry?
Well, I just want to leave a business that's fun to work in. Letting agency for many is not a happy place. It's a tough, legislative, thousand things to do, too many things to do, unprofitable place. And so what I would like to leave is an industry that is fun to work in, that is profitable and gives great service consistently across the board. And that for me is what I want to do, the letting agency industry. I want to transform it to be the place where people want to be in and the place where people want to work with. And if I do even half of that, I think that would be exciting.
I love that. I wanted to ask this question. It just came to my mind now. This mainly is a question that lots of females or women that I see really struggle. What advice do you have for ladies or women that think this sort of thing that you're doing right now, being an entrepreneur, being owning multiple of agencies or multiple of businesses, they think, oh, this is not for me. This is kind of a male thing. So what advice do you have for people that are thinking like that or maybe hesitant to take the leap as a result of that?
Well, I can honestly say being a woman has never held me back, hindered me, or caused any problems in any way, shape, or form. The I think the challenge for a lot of women is that women won't take the risk required. So I think the real women are hugely capable, and most of my team here are women, and they are formidable, phenomenal humans.
I would imagine.
But most of them would never run their own business because they won't take the risk. They're totally capable of running a business and running a really good business, but they won't take the risk. So I think the question here has to be, from a woman's perspective, how do you get the confidence to take the risk? And that's a tough one, because I think I can take the risk because I had nothing. I'm used to having nothing and I'm not scared of having nothing. Whereas a woman's role in the world is to protect and to nurture and to risk putting you, your family, your child, etc., into a place of having nothing is a very scary place to
Mm-hmm.
be. I was fortunate. I've never had to um, be in that situation with a child or family, etc., etc. So I'm probably not the right person to answer that question. But yeah, women have nothing holding them back at all from doing what I've done. You just have to be prepared to take that risk. I told you when I first took mine, I was living with my in my boyfriend's house, and so he paid the bills whilst I did this. That was the way I did it. Not everyone has that situation, so yeah, it's a tough one.
I love that. We are nearly done, right? Nearly done, promise. I just wanted to hit you on the quick fire round questions. Very snappy, quick answers. We can get it done, right? So let's go. Worst advice you remember receiving?
I don't know. Everybody's lovely, maybe.
Okay,
I don't know. I could tell
let's
you
do
the
the.
best advice I think I ever
Yeah,
received.
that's the next question. So,
Yeah,
what is the best advice you remember receiving?
and I wouldn't even call it advice, and this is going to be quite controversial as well, actually. Donald Trump, he wrote a book, Think Rich and Grow Big, I think it's called, something like that. And we're talking about 10, 12 years ago, probably even 15 years ago, actually, thinking. And I was reading his book, and it's a typical Donald Trump book, you know.
Yeah.
And he was saying, and at the time, I was going through a tough patch business wise, and my brain was like, "This is hard. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. Is it me? Why does these things keep happening? What am I doing wrong?" You know, when you just absolutely question everything that you're doing. And I read this book maybe for a bit of inspiration or whatever, I don't know, a bit of confidence or whatever. I read this book, and all the way through this book, it said, people will be horrible. People will steal from you. People will
Mm-hmm.
knock you down. People will lie to you, cheat you. And just when you think everything's going well, it'll be terrible tomorrow. It's not you. This is business. And I can
Wow.
remember sitting there and just thinking, it's not me. This is what it is. This is it. This is entrepreneurship. This is business. This is normal. I need to learn to deal with this and these people and the things that they're doing. I need to be able to cope with this. And it said in the book, the only thing you can do is protect yourself. And I thought, right, it's back to that law again, isn't it? It's back to contracts. It's back
Mm-hmm.
to amortizing your risk. It's about insurance. It's about being tougher, about being stronger. And I tell you, I grew up reading that book made me grow up. It made me just, you got to be hard, Sally. And it wasn't a person particularly talking to me. It was that book, but that line, and I actually tweeted that line because it was all over Twitter at this point in the early, what was it, early 2010s, I think, 2011,
Mm-hmm.
12, something like that. I was all into Twitter. And I tweeted, great line from at Donald Trump, and I put a photograph of his book, and he retweeted me back.
Really?
Yeah, and at this point,
Wow.
I had like 2 weeks of hate from everybody in America. Sally Lawson's a Trump supporter, and I was just like,
You're
oh,
getting famous there.
I was ready for it because I knew now everyone's like, just be tough, So
Mhm.
I would say that's probably the best advice I've ever received from a, not from a human verbally, but yeah, really powerful stuff. And I think, and I try and say this a lot in my boot camps now, it's not you. And a lot of the thing that people say when they come to my boot camps is like 30, 40 letting agents in a room and they walk in there with these feelings. It's me, I'm the problem,
Mhm.
whatever. And they all say when they leave, it's so comforting to know I'm not the only one. And that's what they mean because they
Mhm.
walk in thinking it's me, I'm the problem. And they walk out thinking we've all got the same problem. It's not
Yeah.
me. It's the
Mhm.
industry, it's the market, it's the model. And I think that's really powerful for any entrepreneur because you're going to get it. People, I
Yeah.
could literally, me and you in the pub one night, Rahim, I could tell you some stories. People robbing from me, stealing from me, cheating, everything.
Mhm.
But you just got to pick yourself up, brush yourself down, and crack on.
I feel that. I feel that. Because just a quick story. I went to India on holiday for just, I think it was 2 weeks, only to come back to find out my manager has actually stole over £50,000. For whatever reason, he was asking the tenants to pay me the money cash, and the tenant was just coming in drones, pay the money. By the time I come back, so all these invoices are paid. Where is the money? It's gone. So I can understand that. So we go through a lot. We don't even talk about it because if we start talking about it, we're like, it's gonna be crazy. So I really, really do understand where you're coming from there. It is a challenge, but that's why we are entrepreneurs, right? Because we're there to face challenges, fix them. The bigger the problem,
Yeah.
the more opportunity you get to grow, but also make money out of it anyways. So that's how I
It was
see
a
it. So
50,000 pound lesson, basically. That's what that was. That's the way I look
and
at
basically
it.
when I came back, put all these systems in place to ensure that never happens again.
Exactly.
Right? It was an expensive lesson, but hey, it is what it is. So what's your biggest regret?
I don't think I really have any regrets, to be fair, because I've played full out in absolutely everything that I do. Maybe I should have traveled a little bit more,
Hmm.
but at the time I was, I'm a 4 hour sleeper a night. I've worked all my life. I love work. I get up early in the morning. I do what I need to do. I probably could have traveled more. I probably could have exercised more. I probably could have all those things, but I probably wouldn't be sitting here now if I had done. So is it really regret? I don't know. But myself and my husband now, we're both in our 50s. We go on holiday every 6 weeks.
Beautiful.
We do scuba diving, sailing, horse riding. We're sailing all over the world, scuba diving all over the world, horse riding all over the world. We're making up for lost time, really, for not doing those things. And you got to do it in your 50s. When are you going to leave it?
Beautiful.
You're in your 70s. You've got to do these things. So,
Beautiful. I love that. Is there something you believe that lots of people disagree with?
um, Yeah, probably. I believe business should be fun. And I know people say it, they give it lip service, business should be fun. But I'm not sure people really live that.
Hmm.
Business should be fun. You should enjoy it because if you love it, I'm not going to use the word passion because I think it's overused, but if you love what you do and it inspires you and it gets you excited, you're going to be so much better at it and you're going to be more successful at it. And I think if you can make it fun for the people around you,
Hmm.
we have funky offices, all different wallpapers. We have lunches. We'll get together at lunchtime. We'll go for group dog walks. We have movie
Hmm.
nights.
Right.
We've been off to we every year we do a director's retreat and we go away. We had a villa in Greece, Tuscany. We take our customers on a Floridian cruise down around the Caribbean. This year we booked a big £6 million villa in Marbella and we took them on a retreat to Marbella with private chefs and everything. Yeah, because we want to make it fun. If you come to
Hmm.
one of our conferences, we've got Agent Maker Live, which we do every November in Heathrow, 300 letting agents. You're going to find loud music, lasers. We're going to be throwing t-shirts at you. There's swag galore. It's fun, So I think
Hmm.
I always try and make it fun. Whatever we're doing, let's make it fun. And that's not
Yeah,
always easy, but you should always try and make business fun because I think if you can make learning fun, business fun, working somewhere fun, achieving things fun, giving back fun, people are going to do more of it. And life is short at the end of the day.
I love that. What's the best book you've ever read or listened to?
God, there is so many. I think the one that stands out in my mind was Gary Vaynerchuk in around, I can't remember the exact year, but I think it was around 2011.
Hmm.
And the Thank You Economy. And I remember reading that book and was like, wow. And it was the early days of social media. Social media was just really in its infancy. And the book was all about get yourself on social media, give that value, give value, give value. And I can remember reading that book and I just finished it on the Sunday night. And on the Monday morning, I just Googled Gary and I found this video of him speaking. I can't remember, I think it was Las Vegas or somewhere. He was on a stage talking. It was an hour and a half presentation. So anyway, I watched this presentation, which made me late for work. Which doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I'm late. But anyway, I came in about 9:30 or whatever, and I said to all my team, the team of about 8 at the time, and I went, "Stop what you're doing and watch this." And I made them
Wow.
all sit there for another hour and a half, and I watched it for another hour and a half, and watched this video of Gary Vee really just talking about how we've got to get on social media. And at this time, I was speaking all around the country at events launching the franchise. I was from Cardiff to Belfast to what I was all over the place, and I just this is crazy. We should be online. And I said, this is what we're doing, guys. This is it. And we absolutely pivoted and we turned our entire business to social media. So to
Wow.
Facebook, Twitter at the time, all the YouTube, whatever, whatever. And for many years after that, probably about 5 years after that, I was the main influencer in my space online for quite some
Wow.
time after that. And that was because of that video and that book. And obviously that's continued. We've gone into digital
Hmm.
marketing funnels, whatever, and blah, 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 blah. But that book was the turning point that made me wake up from a physical world into the digital virtual world and made me realize there's a whole other world out here. And of course, it was
Mm-hmm.
very early days then. But what that means is since then, I've been part of that evolution of the digital world and really thrown myself into it, winning, 2 Comma Club Awards, Russell Brunson and stuff like that because of that book. So I would say
Right.
Gary Vee's Thank You Economy. It's a bit old now. There's lots of, newer books you could read, like your Sabri Subi Sell Like Crazy or
Mm-hmm.
Russell Brunson Expert Secrets. There's loads of more modern books now. But that at that time,
Mm-hmm.
that book was pivotal, really, really pivotal.
I love that. Does money make you happy?
Okay. Little fun fact for you. So my foster father was a dustman. We adopt behaviours of our parents, don't we? And
Yeah.
although I fought my foster care parents. My dad was a dustman, and he would give anything away. He used to bring home like, oh, someone threw away this guitar, and he'd give me a guitar, and I'm like, oh wow, I've always wanted a guitar. But then 2 weeks later, he'd give it away, and I'm like, where's my
Wow.
guitar? It's so Fred wanted it over the road. You haven't played it for a week. I'm like, I'm a little bit like that. I would give anybody my last penny, so I'm not a hoarder. I'm not money motivated.
Mm-hmm.
I'm control and freedom motivated. So, does money make you happy? Absolutely, of course it does. Because it makes you happy because the reverse of having money, as in not
Mm-hmm.
having money, makes you very sad. There's
Yeah.
nothing worse than not being able to pay the VAT bill, the tax bill, the salaries, whatever. You will walk around with a knotted stomach. Your body will be stressed. You will start to show physical signs of stress. It is very bad for you. Having money means you haven't got that. So, in that context, yes, it makes you happy. And it also gives you the ability to do the things that you've always wanted to do. It gives you the ability to help people, to support others, to give back. It gives you the ability to grow and to scale. It gives you more
Mm-hmm.
options. So, yes, absolutely. Do I love just sitting looking at notes in the bank balance? No, that's
Probably
not
not.
for me. It's what money does for you and for other people. That's what earning does for you. And that is exciting.
I love that. Is that something you used to strongly believe you recently changed your mind on?
I think until you get there, you don't really know. And I think when you're skint, you just want to get you. I mean, I can remember in that flat having water on the cornflakes. I just wanted to be able to afford some milk and some electricity on the meter. And then it gets, oh, I'd like to be able to buy a house, and you go down the property investment route, and you start buying houses, trading houses. I mean, I bought over 450 properties for clients between 97 and 2002, and about 30 odd for myself. And you know, money becomes a different thing then. It enables you to
Mm-hmm.
buy and sell and do whatever. And then when it's in business, it's like you need enough money to grow and to scale and to reinvest and have the premises that you want and staff that you want and whatever. And then it becomes, I want to be able to do charitable things and I want to give back and I want to help and serve. And so it evolves,
Mm-hmm.
charity begins at home. You've got to look after yourself, you've got to look after your family.
Absolutely.
Then you've got to look after your community, and then you want
Mm-hmm.
to give back beyond that. So I think it does change.
Mm-hmm.
My holidays now consist usually of me sleeping in a tent on the grass without even a ground sheet up some mountain somewhere with no Wi-Fi. So I'm not, you'll never find me in Dubai at a 7-star hotel sipping champagne. That is not me at all. I am. You go past that. I've done the whole champagne fancy hotels thing, and the other side of that is no. I want to get back to nature. I want to be in the middle of the sea, or in the middle of a forest, or in the middle of a meadow, or on a horse, or on a boat, or that sort of stuff. So to me, it's about getting back with nature more so.
I love that. Is there something in the world you fundamentally think is wrong and you would like to change?
Yeah, I think I'm very much into animals, and I think the way a lot animals are treated in a lot of places is really, really bad. I follow a lot of charities online. I donate a lot of money to charities online, and I just, in England we do look after our animals very well. Germans
Mm-hmm.
look after their animals very well, but there's some countries where they're really not, and I think that's wrong. It's so sad to see innocent creatures suffer at the hands of people, and I think there's a lot of education to be done there. And I
Mm-hmm.
support a lot of charities that do a lot of education in, poorer countries around looking after animals and support healthcare for animals in the countries. Egypt's one of them, for example. I support charity that provides free healthcare and education to people with animals, horses, dogs, etc. in
Right.
Egypt. So I just think we could do better by our neighbours on this planet, and I think maybe we should do a little bit more for them.
Absolutely. One question, and before we go to the final one. The podcast is called Property Investment Blueprint Podcast. What does blueprint means to you?
Blueprint is a system. and it's following the system, following the blueprint, following the methods. Blueprint means it's a step by step how to get there. Do this and you will succeed. That's what blueprint means to me.
Fantastic. If there's only one person you'd like me to interview in this podcast, who would that be and why?
I think Daniel Priestley's doing some really interesting interviews at the moment, actually. Really interesting, talking about what's going on in the world and where it's going. So I think Daniel Priestley would be a really good interviewee for you, to really sort of hear his thoughts on the world and how it's working. So I'd say Daniel Priestley.
Fantastic. I love that. What an amazing way to end this podcast. You've been absolutely amazing, Sally. If someone is interested in your services, in what you do, how would they contact you? And where should we follow you? And where are you hanging out on social media?
Okay. The best place to find me is probably Facebook. And so if you find me, just Sally Lawson, I'll be there. In regarding to letting agency coaching, our business is called Agent Rainmaker, so agentrainmaker.co.uk is the best place to go. And of course, we have our annual event, agentrainmaker.live. That's always a fun one every November. But yeah, just reach out on social media. You can find me on there. Also LinkedIn as well. You can find me on LinkedIn. Quite active there. Not so active on Instagram or Twitter. I'm not really on Twitter nowadays. But really Facebook and LinkedIn, I would say, are the best two places.
Fantastic. So what we'll do, we'll also leave all those links in the description below anyway. So whoever is interested will click on that link. Look, Sally, thank you so much for your inspiration. Thank you for helping people transform their life, but also helping families taking the leap of faith to start and scale in their own businesses. And thank you for the charity that you're doing. Thank you for supporting everybody that you're doing. Absolutely amazing. I've heard so many amazing things about you. I thought literally I need to have you in this podcast, and you've been here. All I would say, thank you, thank you, thank you. You've been absolutely amazing.
Thank you, Rahim. It's been awesome being here. Thank you.
Thank you.